Olivia.
I actually do like someone.
In this class?
No,
Like you just like them?
no,
Like you like them? Can you get rid of that?
no,
Is it it's a young boy?
no,
It's an old boy?
kind of,
Is he almost dead?
no.
Like how old is this kid?
He's 21.
Oh, no. No. I mean, what do you want to do with him? Oh, just talk to him. That's okay. And you'll be able to dump him when you get bored?
I know I could never.
Huh?
No,
Oh, but that's no good. Well, give it a shot, see where it goes.
wait. But, I've known him for like almost 2 years now, and we've just been friends. But I do really like him. I think he also likes me, but I don't know if I can tell him.
Oh, no, don't tell him. Don't tell him. See, when you tell someone a secret, hello, they will have power over you. And just in case there is something wrong with them, they will use that power to exploit you, use you, abuse you, and then trash you. So you should hold on to that secret for another like 3, 4, 5 years. When he gets to be 25, 26, if you still find him worthy, then say, you know, Joe, I think I like you.
His name's Aaron.
Ari?
Aaron.
Aaron? That's a bad name. Thank you. Yeah, well, good luck. Yeah. Anyone else? Nothing?
So last night we talked about a lot of different stuff, like
Yes.
jealousy and envy and all that stuff. But we didn't touch on rage. Like, what does rage come from?
So, really?
Jealousy, you said it produces anger, and so we never took it further into like rage.
If I keep looking at Brandon, will you get jealous?
No,
You won't get jealous that I'm not looking at you, but looking at him?
no, like talking to me, like
No, just like looking at
like
him.
if we were in a relationship.
Well, we are, we are not, but I'm just asking you.
No, I'm asking you.
What is that? Money?
Yeah.
So, all right. So, Karen, this is you. Okay? Now, this is life. Life has one function, which is life creates events. Okay? Life comes down and gives you an event. This event creates an experience. Experience creates feeling. Feeling can be positive or it can be negative. You don't need to write the stuff down. It doesn't do anything. But you can if you want to. So if a feeling is positive, you want it to be repeated. If a feeling is negative, you'll try to avoid it as much as you possibly can. If you have no power over what life is giving you, the negative feeling will continue. If you have power and resources, the positive will continue. It's very simple. Okay? When a feeling gets repeated over and over and over and over again, now what you have is a relationship with this particular event that caused this feeling. When this feeling gets repeated, now you have what we call an emotion. Emotion is always historical. In other words, there is a history in it. History has stories in it. There is a reason why when I look at Brandon, you don't get jealous. You know why? We don't have a relationship.
Right.
There is no history between you and I. So there are no feelings. If on the other hand, you did have feelings towards me, and I kept looking at him instead of you, then jealousy would kind of come to visit you. Now, when you talk about rage, that's what you talked about, right? Rage. So usually what happens is life creates an event, it's negative. Whenever something is negative, it causes pain. Okay? We don't like pain. So what we do is we try to somehow overcome this. Without resources, you are agitated. You are irritated. You are frustrated. You are confused because you try to get rid of this, it refuses to go away. Okay? Agitation, irritation, frustration, confusion, these are all poverties. Then there comes a point where you're like sad, in despair, maybe even depressed. Then you have anger because you've tried all sorts of ways to overcome pain. It doesn't happen. Now you're angry. If anger continues, now you have rage. And if you live in Oakland, rage manifests itself outwardly. Now you have violence. So it's very difficult to say, today I'm waking up and I'm just angry. It doesn't work that way. Okay. Now, we have this thing also called moods. Moods just happen. They're accidents. They're like magic. They just drop down from thin air. They occupy parts of you. They begin to move around. Moods don't usually last. If I was to use the N-word, for example, there's a good chance that you're going to be angry. And there's a good chance that you're going to be enraged. And there is a reason. There is a history behind the word. And there is pain behind the word. So for those of you in this class who once in a while go out with people and you find hints of anger inside them, okay, it's not just a feeling. They have a past. And you need to be very, very mindful of that past if you don't want to ruin your life.
What about people with the characteristics of control that wants to always control the situation?
We're all control freaks. Whenever there is pain, whenever there is an event that it's out of your control, you become a political animal. You try whatever you possibly can to kind of bring together your resources to get rid of anything that has troubled you. We've been in relationships.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, you try to control your man or your woman or whatever.
Yeah,
That's just the way things are.
Some women control it.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Jen?
Considering the equation you put up there, is it not possible for someone to like control their moods that don't feel negative about?
Oh no. No, the idea of controlling something, especially when it comes to feelings and emotions, yeah, you can. The only thing is to be able to walk away from a certain emotion, something about you must stand outside of you to watch this emotion at play without reacting to it. We are, for the most part, very reactive animals. For you to be able to overcome an emotion, let's say you and I are in a relationship, I do things, it pisses you off, okay? Then you sleep on the sofa, I sleep on the bed, we don't talk for a couple days, and this is your fault. It wasn't my fault, it's your fault, because you just kind of get carried away with the emotions. When this happens a number of times, you come to realize this is no way to be in a relationship, okay? So there's a good amount of pain. You have lost control of many things, in particular your emotions. And so what happens, you become exhausted of the way you behave towards certain events. Maybe you'll begin to read books, maybe you'll go on long walks, maybe you'll have conversations, maybe you'll go seek therapy. Who the hell knows what people do? But the task of reading books or reflecting or observing is, here you are, here is the way you act, here's the event. So in a very detached way, you try to look at these things. And the more you're able to separate yourself, take a look, study, take notes, observe, little by little, maybe, and that's a big maybe, you can make some changes. So next time I say, Jin, you're a piece of shit, instead of like exploding, you'll take a few steps back, you'll take a deep breath, and then you say, what exactly do you mean by that? If for the past like 10, 15, 20 years, I mean, look, one of the things that happens when you go to therapy is you've tried to overcome certain things, but you haven't. You've lost a lot of relationship because of it. You've lost a lot of jobs because of it. People kind of categorize it as being a jerk or an idiot because of it. And so the task of a therapist, if there happen to be any good, is to kind of push you into objectivity, that you are able to separate yourself from your past, look at it, observe it, hopefully understand it, learn from it, and then if you are lucky, make some practical changes.
What about the term emotional intelligence?
There is none. Emotional intelligence, there is my sister, his mother. She's just afraid of spiders. When she sees them, she screams. Okay. Fear is one of those emotions that I think to some extent history and biology and evolution has put inside us. There are some emotions that are instinctual, they are intuitive, they are part of our organism. They're very, very intelligent, they're very, very insightful, and they just come up, okay? But most of the emotions that live inside us, they have been learned. They are there as a protective mechanism. We cunningly create those emotions, okay? If, for example, you've had a rough past, and you and I want to be in a relationship, you will do whatever you can to sabotage a relationship. That particular aspect of you is not intelligent. It's actually quite stupid.
It's actually what?
Stupid? Yeah.
But
Allahu Akbar.
will you not unlearn the fear? Like, let's say your fear was misplaced. You learned that either something was...
You can learn everything. You can learn anything. Learning itself is quite complicated. It's very easy for you to sit down, read a book, take notes, and then come to class and talk about it. To understand what you've taken notes on and to really embody the ideas, that's a different story. Okay, let me give it to you in this other way. Let's say I'm your dad. Okay. And let's say you hate me. When you were growing up, I used to drink, smoke, once in a while, beat the crap out of you. Right? Now, children have lots of dreams and hopes and expectations. All you know is that you have a jerk for a father, okay? And so at the age of 12 or 13 or 14, you leave the house and you move away. And you and I don't talk. Once in a while, you talk to your mom, my wife, about why this man, i.e. your father, happens to be such a jerk. Now, your mom has not told you the story, But now that she sees you a little older, a bit more mature, a bit more open, receptive to certain things, at the age of 25, 26, 27, she says, Jen, it's time for some truth. Sit your ass down. And so, now remember, you hate me. And go back to this GPS out here. You hate me because there's a history. And it's very difficult to overcome. Especially during the formative years, from the age 0 to about 10, what kids need is parents who are solid. I mean, really, really solid. That life is a mess. You know that if you go home, there are 2 people who are there to protect you, to take care of you. They're never going to disappoint you. Now, you don't have that, or you didn't have that. So your mom sits you down and says, you know, your father, when he was 2, his father, your grandfather, used to beat him up every single day. And then at the age of 18, him and I got together. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How's Muhammad? Now, when your mom, my wife, was pregnant with you, I stopped drinking for a while, I stopped smoking for a while, I dropped out of school, and I got 3 jobs. And that's one of the things that happens to parents. Whether it's a welcome pregnancy, okay, or something that just happens and you're caught off guard. Now that I say, okay, you know what? I did this, I'm going to own it up. Your wife and I mean, my wife and I, your mom, will go to Target, Toys R Us, and we'll steal cribs, strollers, diapers, right? I say, I'm going to be the best father. I'm going to be with this kid the way my father never was. But you're not a father yet. And you have no idea what it means at the age of 18 to be robbed of life. I didn't want a child. It just happened. I didn't have sex to have a child. I had sex to have fun. But here you are. I try to do good by you and by the wife, but I'm 18. Life is far too demanding. I don't really understand it. I'm far too young, far too immature. I'm just a complete idiot. There comes a point where I realize I've worked today for about 10 hours. I come home, the wife is tired. She throws you in my arms and you keep screaming. How much do you think I can take before I explode? Not very much. It doesn't take very much for me. Hello, Alexis. Eventually I break. I go back to the same old habits. I began to drink. I began to smoke. And just in case you scream, what is it that I have learned in life? When times are tough, you beat someone up. And you're not going to beat someone who's more stronger than you, more powerful than you. You beat up someone who's weaker than you. And who is closest to me? You are. I'm going to beat the crap out of you. Not because I want to, but because of the pressures of life. I have to release this tension. And sadly for you, you're the boxing bag. Okay? I am no longer 20 or 25 or 30 or 40 or 50. I'm now a 62-year-old man. My wife has left me. I haven't spoken to you for over like 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 years. I'm now in therapy. Sad, depressed. I'm home alone. And your mother, for the first time, has told you this story. What are you going to do? Now, 2 things have happened to you. First, not only must you carry the cross of my abuse, now you have to carry the cross of this brand new knowledge that your father was abused from the age 2 all the way to 62. Now, you're a 25-year-old man. You want to live your life. You also want to forgive because you understand now. You want to be kind. You want to be compassionate. But having an idea of being kind, having an idea of being forgiving, these are very, very different things than actually being kind and forgiving. And you try, you will fail. One of the best movies, and it's not really that great of a movie, but nevertheless, it's called The Wrestler with Mickey Rourke, I think, right? He's a wrestler. He has a bum heart. He comes to understand. The doctor tells him, you can no longer wrestle. If you do, you'll probably die. You have a heart attack and your heart won't give or will give. And so knowing that he's going to die, and it's thing we were talking about last in this class, which is death makes you very reflective. You introspect. You begin to ask big questions. Why am I here? What is friendship? What is meaningful? What is valuable? How should I live my life? What the hell is wrong with me? What is wrong with the world? All those things that we usually don't ask because you're distracted by life. Okay? Now, knowing that he's going to die, or he doesn't have very much time left, he remembers that he has a daughter. And again, if you stretch your imaginations back to our conversation last night, remember how we remember things. It's through pain we remember things. Okay? So he remembers that he has a daughter. He knocks on her door. The daughter is angry, says to him, get the hell out. He says, please, I made a lot of mistakes. I want to make peace with you. She says, okay. They go out, they have a great time. And he says to her, why don't I come by next week, Saturday, and we'll go out. Fine. For the first time, she understands what it means to be a father. And she loves the interaction. Okay? Saturday comes. On Friday, he's a drunk. He's sleeping with 5 women. He wakes up at 10 p.m. Saturday night. He drives to the daughter's house, but she's been waiting for the past 10 hours. She's pissed off. She says, no more. Get out. I don't want to be hurt again. Look, America is a bumper sticker country. You know, it really is. Practice like a moment of kindness. Be compassionate. You know, what is that sign that people have in their houses these days? The what? You know, like Black Lives Matter, Science Matters, Love Matters, Gay Matters, this matters, that matters. You know, these are bumper stickers. It doesn't mean anything. I mean, they're good. They give you the illusion that you're profoundly mature and reflective and observant. But the truth is, you're just a piece of shit. And just because you have a bumper sticker doesn't mean anything.
Right.
You know, I mean, it's like someone being just emotionally, intellectually very poor, very angry, but they drive a Bentley. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. No cookies. They're from me today. Just kidding. Is it? Okay, let's move on. Anyone else?
Well, I do
Allahu
think
Akbar.
when you walk away, it shows some type of emotion or good. I just didn't finish.
No, when you walk away, you just can't handle it. You can't do it. You know, I mean, for those of you in this class who have ever been to College Avenue, not college, but Telegraph. Is it Telegraph or Telegram? Telegraph. Going towards the campus. You know, start on Dwight and then walk towards the campus. And there are lots of young kids, 18, 19, 20 hippies. And you happen to be in this mood where you want to give people some money, $1 each or 2 or 3 or 4, buy them sandwiches. By the time you get to the 4th person, you say, fuck this, I'm not doing this anymore. You know, these young kids, they can get a job, you know. So in as much as you tried, you know, you wake up in the morning and you say, today I'm going to help everyone. By the time you get to the 5th person, you're done.
Oh, no, you answered my question. So I got a question that might be a little bit on a different topic.
That's okay.
But so you said in your home country, y'all don't have pets. There's animals that roam freely.
No. We're not pet. I lived in Tehran, the capital. Okay. We're also very communal. Okay. And it's a third world country. Nobody has a lot of money. There are no pet foods, cat foods or dog foods. If there are dogs roaming around freely, you call the city, they come by, poison the dogs, and they kill them. Animals are actually afraid of people. Okay. Now the story has changed because Iran has been modernized, because now we have these huge tower buildings like chicken coops where people live. Now because people very much like here, they're isolated, their kids are over there, their parents are over there, there is not much interaction. Everybody has pets now.
So I was going to ask, in certain third world countries, they don't really have pets like that. Like I know where my fiance is from in Africa, they don't have pets. There's dogs that just kind of roam
Yeah.
around. But also the community is stronger there. Places like America where you feel like you don't have community, a lot of those people end up having like emotional support animals. Does that have something to do with like not feeling like you have control over your life?
Here, you mean?
Yeah. Like you feel alone and you don't have control over your life, so you go and get emotional support from it.
You know, there are a whole host of issues involved with your questions, and it's really, really complicated. First, just America is a huge land. You know, I mean, if you consider, for example, China, 60%, that was a few years ago, 60% of the land in China, they're just not usable, just rocks. So what you have is you have 40% of the land and everybody just hovers there. Here, because of privilege, because of money, because of independence, philosophies of life, you know, this idea that the pursuit of happiness and your life really belongs to you and you're mature, independent at the age of 18. Once you create this philosophy that you can cut this umbilical cord at a certain stage and just move on, you know, without really understanding the complexities of life. And when you talk about third world environments, people really need people to survive. When you get some money and when you buy yourself a nice little property, try to build yourself a house with your own two hands. And you realize that there are beams that are just way too heavy for you. And so what you'll do is you'll call someone. And when you call that person over and over and over again, now you have friendship. If that person happens to be someone to whom you're attracted, then you'll propose marriage. Then you'll have kids. They'll also begin to build. And that's how communities are formed. And why do you call this person? Not because you like people. It's just you're weak. You need help. In third world countries, you just need help to survive. When I was working at the car wash, we had a guy who was selling hot dogs. He was making about $60,000 a month selling hot dogs. And this is 1987. You can't go anywhere on this planet selling hot dogs and making all that money. You can in America. Anyways, anyone else? Before we... Yes, E? Anything? Sure. Joseph?
That we don't have relationships because we're social creatures.
I guess so. Imagine I'm walking around the lake by myself and I'm content and I'm happy, I'm satisfied. And suddenly I saw you holding hands with this young woman. Upon seeing that, I realized that you have taken something from me. You have stolen my contentment. You have stolen my richness of being okay with just being me, by myself, all alone. I'm actually quite sufficient. All of a sudden, seeing you holding hands with another, I all of a sudden have this poverty. I want some of that. And then let's just say I have the privilege and the power and the resources to now go and actively look for someone. I think human beings are just born to be poor at different stages of life. I have the poverty of health, but you don't. You have the poverty of money, but I don't have that poverty. And whenever you have a certain amount of poverty, it means you're missing something. And whenever you are missing something, you want that missingness to go away. You want to get yourself to a place where you have it instead of not having it. There was a guy, his name is John Butler. I think he lives in England in a church somewhere, in a monastery. He was married. And so he used to do meditation with this woman. It wasn't his wife, but another person. And they would sit together. Their knees would touch. And on one occasion, he felt as if her soul is inside him and his soul is inside her. And so that night they had sex. But it wasn't just two pieces of meat grinding against one another. It was, let's just call it magic. It's not something you can just duplicate, something you can cook up. It doesn't work that way, okay? He experienced something about himself, not so much about the sex, not so much about the other person, but something about himself came to life. And he realized that he doesn't need anyone. He doesn't need his wife. He doesn't need his kids. He doesn't need this woman. He doesn't even need to meditate. And because he was friends with some people in England, he called them up and he said, I want to live my life as a monk. Okay. Now, for the longest time in his life, he just sat very, very quietly. What he needed was not so much people. He needed books. And after having read lots of books, he came to realize he has another need. Not so much reading anymore, but writing now. And then after a while, he came to realize he has another need. He wants his writings to be published. And then he came to realize he has another need, which is, I have come to some realizations about myself and about life, which could benefit other people. So he called some people. They went to the church with cameras and microphones, and they videoed him. And he now has a podcast. So at different stages of your life, certain poverties are fulfilled, you become rich, other poverties come in. But in regards to the pet culture, Nietzsche, I think, said it best, that we have pets not because we love animals. We have pets because we don't like people, which may be very true. Anyone else?
I said you don't believe in love.
Who? I did?
You are being in love is not real. I can't find it.
So let me create a scenario. Okay. I don't like you, but I can slowly grow to like you. And I don't love you, but I can grow to love you. And it's not because there is anything about you or your life or the way you think about things that I enjoy. I will love you for one reason, for you to be receptive to my ideas. I will own you for the next 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years. And in loving you and you loving me back, and it's going to be unequal. You're going to love me more than I will love you. It's the continuation of our conversation last night. I think it was last night, right? Or the night before, where I will exploit you, I will manipulate you, I will lie to you, I will cheat you, I will do whatever I possibly can, so that you can become a vehicle for my ideas. And once you buy into that, you will go to school. If you drink, you will no longer drink. If you smoke, you can no longer smoke. If you have friends, you will no longer have friends. If you're engaged to be married, you will break that off. You will go to school. You will get your master's or a PhD. Now you walk into life with power. You don't need to be around me. And I don't need to hear from you. You need to consider love to be an emotion that you can use. But the question is, how do you want to use it? Everything is a tool. How do you want to use it? You want to romanticize it? Fine. Go romanticize love. You want to exploit it? You can. The more mature you are, the better you can exploit this particular tool. You know, it's like your parents. You fear them. And when your mom says, do your math, you just do your math. And just in case you don't, her volume will go up. And now you will sit and do your math. Has she used fear in the right way? Absolutely. Does she impose that fear upon you? Yes. Do you get exploited by that emotion? Definitely. Does it benefit you? At the time, you won't see it. 10 years later, you say, if it wasn't for my mom's slap, I wouldn't be here now. Anyone else?
In your
Today, we're going to do Hinduism, if we ever get there. Sorry, E. Yeah.
in the video or podcast that we're supposed to watch for this week, Love and Wisdom, you talk about the goddess Bach.
Yeah.
And how inspiration comes and when it goes, depression comes in. I was struggling just to connect Bach to that, and I was wondering if you could.
I won't talk about VOC, but I'll tell. It's VAC. So for those of you who have, who can't hear well, it's not FOC, it's VOC. VAC.
Is that the name of the video for this week?
VOC.
Yes.
So because this particular deity or goddess is closely related to the emotion we call love, let me remove VOC from this particular picture, keep love for a moment. Imagine for a moment that you read like Emilia. Is that okay? That's Emilia. Red. How old are you? How old are you? It's a bad, it's not good. Let's just say he's like 35. Okay. Now, go back to the diagram we put on the board a few nights ago. Okay. You're doing fine, you're single, you're content. You look at her, you're attracted. She steals part of you. That part can no longer go back to you. She has it. And you're desperately going to her because there's a good amount of you that now lives inside her. You're attracted to her. And it's an experience that is positive. It gives you pleasure. So you keep pursuing her. Attraction turns into curiosity. Who is she? What is she? Does she have a boyfriend? Does she have a good past? Does she drink? Does she smoke? Okay? Then, when curiosity is nourished, it's like a seed. Okay? You keep nourishing it with also imagination, with texting, with calling, with hanging out with her. Then you become interested. Then you say, well, what do you want to have tonight? Do you want Zachary's pizza? You want to go to Barney's? Right? And remember, when you love more, what happens? You become a slave to her. You're there to fulfill her desires. That's what you do. And there's a great amount of joy in that. That you're willing to sacrifice yourself as a lamb, not so much lamb of God, but lamb of Amelia. Okay? And so interest grows. Then you're not really sure how you feel about her until one morning you wake up and you find yourself infatuated. It means that she holds inside her 75% of who you are. You want to be around her. That is what makes your life meaningful. Infatuation, another seed. Now, all these seeds can be crushed. Okay? If, for example, you're infatuated with Amelia and all of a sudden you get a call that your mom died and she's in New York, you're going to pack up and go to New York. And you may even stay there. And what you realize is the grief that lives inside you now is much more profound, much more weightier than the emotions you have for this woman. Eventually you'll forget. Because what grief does, it pushes you into aloneness, reflection. Okay. Now, if infatuation is not destroyed and nourished, you become obsessed. When you get to this point of obsession, now what you have is 90% of you lives inside her. Without her, you're lost. Without her, you're homeless. Without her, the world is a desert and nothing grows in it. She has all the power and you have nothing. 2 weeks later, you're in love. And if you happen to be like our good friend here, you say, should I tell her I love her or should I not tell her I love her? What should I do? Okay. Now, when you're in love, it means that she has all of you and you have zero of yourself. When you're around her, it's your Garden of Eden. You're in ecstasy. There is nothing more you want. Life has nothing more to offer you. You have everything. She is Aphrodite. She is Venus. She is Ishtar. She is your Enkidu. Whatever your past may be, she gets rid of it. And even though she may be abusive, you will continue to forgive her because that's what love does. It makes you more than human. When she says, I gotta go home, and my home is in Los Angeles, and I'll be back in a week, she makes your Garden of Eden. She also is the creator of your desert. When she is gone, okay, and it's something we all experience. You know, you're on the phone with the person you love. It's like 2 a.m, you're exhausted. You want to hang up the phone, but you really don't want to hang up the phone. So you say, can I just fall asleep to your breathing? It's one of those sick things that we do that's really, really fun. You know?
No, you hang up first.
Yeah, you hang up first. Yeah. You know. And so, and that's the thing. Whenever you're inspired by anything, it leaves a mark inside you. And if you are lucky enough to forget those moments of inspiration that make your life profound and meaningful and relevant and significant, if you're able to forget, then you can go back into life and just do whatever. If on the other hand, you're stuck on this woman, what she has left you, physically, but imaginatively, emotionally, intellectually, she's still occupying a good amount of space inside you. Okay. So when she's not there, that's your desert life. When she is, and that's what Vak is. There is this poem that we have in Persian. چون دایره ما ز پوست پوشان توییم در دایره حلقه به گوشان توییم گر بنوازی ز جان خروشان توییم ور ننوازی هم از خموشان توییم. That when Emilia is not around you, you're just moping around, you're sad, you're depressed, you don't have much to say, there isn't much to laugh about, talk about, think about, feel about. When Emilia is there on the other hand, you laugh and you're joyous and you're excited. That this poem says, I have experienced something. If the thing that gave me this inspiration doesn't come back, I will remain mute. I will remain a corpse. If on the other hand it comes and taps on me, plays with me, inspires me, I will sing and I will scream and I will yell. When we get to Buddhism, we'll talk about the noble silence, which has to do with your question, but that's like weeks away. Anyone else? No one? Rochelle.
Speak about like Hinduism.
All right. Sure. Is this boring for you? Any other questions before we do Hindus? I mean, we talk about Hinduism? Matt.
If I were interested in writing in Arabic,
Don't do it.
would you recommend still trying right-handed like I would with English, or would you have to trying left-handed?
You know, over the years, I've had students, they try to learn the Persian language. They try to play Persian traditional instruments. They tried singing. A few of them even traveled to Iran. In fact, one, as far as I know, is doing Persian literature, his PhD, University of Tehran. I wouldn't recommend it. It's a waste of time. Unless, let's say you get married to Iqra. You shouldn't do it because her parents would probably kill you. But let's say you married her and you were mature enough to look at the American culture and realize that it is hollow. It's like bubble gum. It's big, but it's empty. And it easily pops. It easily makes people depressed and sad and lonely and pathetic and suicidal. That's what the American culture is. Okay. And you want to have children with her. And you say, since America is a culture that doesn't have very much depth yet because of its being so young, maybe I should learn how to speak Arabic. Not so much to write Arabic, to speak Arabic. So when we have children, the kids can hear the language. Okay? And the thing about the language has history in it. Language has emotions in it. Language has culture in it. Language has etiquette in it. Okay? And you say, well, English doesn't really have most of the wonderful components that live inside the Arabic language. Okay? So if that is your goal, getting married to an Arab woman and you want to have children with her, okay? If you want your kids to benefit from certain things that this culture can give them, then yes, you should learn Arabic. If, on the other hand, you're just curious about learning Arabic, I think it's a waste of time. First, you're too old. Now, that doesn't mean that it's not possible for you, but when you get to be over the age of like 35, 36, I mean, you have a good amount of calcium inside your brain. You know, it's like Rocky Balboa, the last movie I think he played. He wanted to fight this heavyweight champion, and his coach told him, well, you can't really run around the ring too much because of the calcium in your knees. So I think English is a great language. I think there are wonderful books that you can find down here in English that can be inspirational, and it can lead you, if you're a good student, towards wisdom, if that is what your objective is. You could also be picked up by CIA, FBI, learn the language, or maybe just learn the language and then go to these departments and say, by the way, I know Arabic, I can go over there and be a spy. That's also one way. Do not be deceived by the exoticness of a culture. I think because I used to say a lot of poetry in my classes, students would say, well, ma'am, I want to go learn Persian. Don't do it. I say poetry in Persian, not for the students, just for me. You know. But if you learn another language, it gives you another window to look through and see the world differently. Yeah.
Why did you come to America?
I was a kid.
But like, was it your choice or was it your parents?
My choice? Are you kidding? I'm from the Middle East.
So
If I don't listen to my parents, my father would belt me, slap me, kick me, punch me.
would you say that your parents were deceived by American culture?
No, I think parents suffer from paranoia. Parents, they want the best for their kids. Look, something happens to you when you hold a child. the innocence, the naivete. You also become aware of the dangerousness of the world. I think by nature, you're very protective of anything that's innocent. I mean, it doesn't even have to be a child. Look at like a kitten, or these tiny chicks that turn out to be eventually like ugly chickens. And because of this paranoia, parents will do whatever they possibly can, to kind of make sure that the kids never come in harm's way. One of the things that you will get when we get to Buddhism is that all of our parents, I mean, forget what you may have experienced with your parents as something negative. Initially, when somebody becomes a parent, do they dread it? Absolutely. Are they maybe even angry? Yes. But they really have these beautiful dreams and hopes about how they want to raise this kid and what they want to expose these kids to. It's just that all of us fall short. That's the thing. Marriage is wonderful as long as you're not yet married. Then when you do get married, it's still wonderful, but it's a lot of politics. And when you have children, you realize, like when you get married and have children, your wife isn't going to care for you as much. Rightly so, because priority now are the kids. She doesn't give a shit if you start eating rocks for dinner and lunch. And she's going to take all of your money and buy kids food and clothes and this and that. You're like way out there in the backseat, maybe the trunk. And the only thing you can hope for, and you're a man, which means that your relationship with your kids are going to be very, very different than the relationship a woman has with her kids. The kids don't want to be around you. And rightly so. I mean, look at you. Right? And you have to wait and wait and wait and wait till like the girl is like, I don't know, your girl is like 12. She says, "Oh, Dad, I've missed you so much. Where have you been for the past 12 years?" You say, "I've been fucking here. Where have you been?" So, yeah. Hi. Who are you? Okay. Anyone else? Hinduism. All right, let's do it. Oh, Abi, go ahead. It's okay, go ahead. They can wait for another 5 minutes. I mean, they may beat you up after class, but it's okay. Go ahead, Abi.
I'm listening to the Ramayana. There's no mention of
Probably not. I'll tell you a story. It doesn't really have much to do with your question. It's about the first sociologist. He's considered to be the father of sociology. His name is Auguste Comte. Auguste Comte is the guy who had argued that initially human beings didn't have any gods, but they felt kind of lonely and abandoned and meaningless. And so they had argued that the gods live in the forest, and one of the main gods of the forest is Pan, for panic. The trees are huge, it's dark, it's scary, so you panic. Then he said that human beings, psychologically, they evolved. And they said, well, our gods really can't be down here. They need to be up there somewhere. So we created the Greek pantheons, for example. Zeus, Epimetheus, Prometheus. And so instead of having gods down here, we had gods up there now in the sky. We had many of them. Then time passed and human beings evolved even more instead of having many, many gods, okay, we said maybe we should just have one God, and let's call him Yahweh, or let's call him Allah, or let's call him Jesus Christ. Okay. And then we evolved even more. We realized that we don't really need gods anymore because now we have science. And through science, you can figure out why you are the way you are. Through science, you can figure out why life is the way it is. There's a reason why earthquakes happen. There's a reason why thunderstorms happen. There are reasons we can actually use science to kind of get to know these things. Auguste Comte had a wife who went kind of mad and crazy. She fell in love with at this time, I think he was around the age 37, 38, maybe 40. He fell in love with a 17 or a 16-year-old girl. And so he went to her parents and said, I would like to marry your girl. And the parents said, are you kidding? You're almost dead. You know, you're an old man, get lost. Eventually the girl died. She got sick and she died. And Auguste Comte had an artist come to his house, draw a portrait of this young woman, and he nailed the frame to the wall and a chair under it. Every night he would sit or kneel, rest his forehead on the chair and pray to the image of this young girl. He was fully devoted to her. Whenever you fall in love, I think, you begin the act of worship in the way that your capacity allows. You know, some people write poetry, some people begin to weep, some people spend lots of money. It doesn't really matter, okay? And as long as you love, you only really have one obligation, one duty, one commitment, which is to please the person that you're in love with. Now, it's only the romantic stage. It's what we talked about last night, which is there comes a point where your desire to have sex with your companion, that desire has diminished a little bit. Now, it's about time for you guys to go to Costco, to vacuum the house, to wash dishes, to take out the garbage. And the thing about, there's a guy by the name of Aristophanes. He made fun of Socrates some years ago, and he had this wonderful story about how human beings were created. That all of us were born, part of me was a man, the other part was a woman, and all I had to do, just in case I felt lonely and missed a companion, I just looked to my left, and there it was. I had two heads, I had four arms, I had four legs, and so I had no need to worship any deity. I was fully in love with myself. Now, Zeus, because Zeus is a very, very needy god, says to himself, I think I made a mistake. I've made a human being who is very sufficient, complete, perfect, beautiful. They don't need anything. Zeus needs to be worshipped. By who? By human beings. So what Zeus did was cut the human being in half. Okay? He throws one half to the south, the other half to the north. Okay? And he says, I will do whatever I can to make sure these two halves never come together. In other words, I will make sure that these two pieces never become complete, because should they become complete, they will no longer have any need for what life has to offer them. They have no need to go to church, to go to the synagogue, to go to mosque. Okay? They can find completion and beauty within themselves. And so what happens is the person who goes to the south becomes Indian. The person who goes to the north becomes Persian. Now, Persian has a different culture, Indian has a different culture. Now you come together with two very, very different sets of ideas about life. Your temperament is different, your culture is different, your language is different, the world you see, the way you see life is different. Now when two people come together, initially what love does, it makes you blind to all the differences that exist inside you and in the relationship. That's what love does. It makes you blind. You don't see the differences. Then as the romance eventually dissipates, as you're no longer intoxicated with the emotion, you sober up a little bit. Now you begin to see that some things about this relationship don't work well. There are disagreements. Now comes obligation. Now comes commitment. Are you devoted to the person, or are you just devoted to the romance of love? That depends on how well you understand what relationships are meant to do, what they're designed for. Now, for you to continue with the relationship that has little romance but a good amount of commitment and obligation is understanding, respect, which means you have to understand relationship. You also have to respect your companion. You have to also move to understand who and what she is or he is. And that takes a lot of work. And you do all the stuff. Then after 15, 20, 30, 40 years, you realize, you don't really need to talk to your wife. You don't even need to look at her. Just in case you have a triple bypass or you need to have one, she just needs to take you to Kaiser. Now you gain your independence, and it's a very healthy independence. There was a coffee shop in San Francisco on Gary near the ocean. It was called Luis's. It's closed up now. I walked in this old couple. One was like 98, the other was 155. And they're like holding each other's arms. And if you're like this young fart, naive, stupid, you'd say, oh, look, they're so much in love. They're holding each other. The truth is, if you don't hold the other person at that age, well, you're going to fall. So you're not holding them because you love them. You're holding them because you're making sure you're not falling or breaking a leg or a hip or this or that. So they sit in a booth. The husband begins to read the paper. The woman just begins to talk to herself. And once in a while, he puts down the paper, looks at her, and then picks up the paper. And you as a young person sitting back looking at this saying, man, that's a really, really boring relationship. It's dead. I'm never going to have that relationship. It's going to be lively and exciting. But you fail to realize, and this is just the immaturity of just being young, but you fail to realize it takes a long, long time for a couple to really be comfortable, each of them being together but very, very separate. Anyone else? All right, Hinduism. E, you must be very excited now. Okay. So many years ago, there's a group of people living by lakeshore, and like hundreds and thousands of them. And the lake has lots of fish in it. So that's what they do. They fish, they eat fish, they barbecue fish. They have the same language. They believe in the same things. And that's one of the nice things about being communal. You can't be divided because all of you share the same common belief. At a certain point, this river runs out of fish. What happens when you lose your job? What happens when your town no longer has any jobs for you? What happens when your town no longer offers you any hopes, any dreams? What happens when you realize you're just decaying from inside? Okay? For the first time, something really strange happens. People come to realize there is no food, they will die. So they begin to migrate. Why do people migrate? Why did I come to America? Why did your parents leave Nicaragua to come here? Hope. Dreams. Because your parents believe that your country has nothing to offer them. There is no social mobility. Why do you want to leave Oakland? It's never going to be rid of violence and drugs and crime. That's the reason why we migrate. We lose hope. Why do you walk away from a relationship? It's dead. There is no fish in it. Okay? So immigrants are not stupid. Immigrants are simply hopeless, the way you and I are sometimes in our relationships. Okay? Now, all of a sudden there is a fraction, a division. Two groups appear. For thousands of years there used to be only one, now there are two. One group goes to the south, the other goes to the north. Those who go to the south find themselves in a place there is lots of trees. Food just grows out of the earth. When I was in India, I lived in a place called Mysore. It was like a jungle. And you would see all sorts of animals. And just in case you were hungry, you would just grab a snake, cut the neck off, or some body part, remove the skin, just eat it. So those who end up in the south, it's a place we call India. Now, for those of you in this class who think geography doesn't matter, it matters. You can't grow dates in Oakland, but you can grow dates in Palm Springs. Hot weather creates one temperament, cold weather creates another temperament. Poverty creates people with lots of anger. Privilege creates people with lots of boredom. India is a land that's lush. Food is plentiful. I want to tell you a few things about my nephew Arman. When his father was in Iran at the age of 18, he went to war between Iran and Iraq. His best friend in the bunker died because a bomb dropped. When he came to America, he had an ice cream truck. When his parents came here, they told him, look, we didn't send you to America to sell ice cream, but to go to school, to be educated. So he went to school, he became a dentist. But he came from a land of poverty. He saw war. He saw death. And when he was selling ice cream, he was shot at a few times. He had to fight to be in life. His son Arman is a different story. He doesn't sell ice cream. He eats ice cream. He is not in war. He creates war. His father is poor. Arman is privileged. These are two very, very, very different human beings who view money differently, life differently, time differently, relationships differently. Those who go to India are passive. Anyone who is privileged is passive. If you have lots of money in your pocket, you spend it. You don't spend it, you burn it. And you burn it passively. So when you look at Indian philosophy, it's passive. You want to know truth? Go inside yourself. The kingdom of God is inside you. India is like Jesus. I don't give a shit what the world is, and I don't give a shit how cruel and brutal life is. Happiness lives within. That's India. Those who go to the north, they find themselves in the desert. It's what they call the Middle East. It's Iran. Food does not grow. There is no money. There is no privilege. You have to fight to survive life. So when you look at the Persian religions, Zoroastrianism, and then eventually Islam, what you realize is that Middle Eastern religions, they're not passive. They're like Moses. If you hit me, I will fucking kill you. You have to be a warrior to survive the desert. In India, you just sit and food is served to you. So when you read the Quran, the Bible of the Muslims, when you read the sayings of Avesta, of Zoroaster, there is no passivity in it. You have to fight in life. You have to be a warrior. Okay? So if you are a person of color in this classroom, your geography is one of poverty. Poverty creates anger. Poverty creates envy. Poverty creates resentment. Poverty creates vengeance. You also protect your people. Why? You understand what poverty looks like. Poor people are communal people. Privileged people are separate, divided. Now, do you have any questions up to this point before we continue? Okay. Yes.
Some of those with privilege kind of huddle together as well. Privilege to themselves.
Yes. Yes. Like Donald Trump and Jared Kushner. And Jeff Bezos. And Tommy Zuckerberg. Yes. John.
I was gonna ask you about the caste system. Exactly.
Yeah, but we won't talk about it. Or maybe we will. Let's just see how it goes. Maybe it's good to see you. Thank you. Matt?
When do the Sikhs enter the stage?
Sikhs?
The Sikhs, yeah. When do they show up?
They're relatively new. We'll talk about them. Maybe. So, every culture eventually has to create a set of meanings for itself. And India is no different. So Indians create this belief system. We call it the Vedic tradition, the Vedas. The word Veda means secret. Why would anyone keep anything secret? Why do we have secrets? Sometimes as our friend here said, I have a secret, which is I love Joe Schmo. Should I reveal my secret to him? She says, what if he is unworthy of this particular emotion that lives inside me? If he is unworthy, he may use that particular emotion, that particular power, my weakness, to exploit me, abuse me, harass me. Sometimes you keep something a secret because you know the other person is not ready for it. For those of us in this class who have children, and our children have come to an age of curiosity, one day or one night they come to you and say, Dad or Mom, can you tell me what porn is, or what sex is, or what fuck is? What are you going to do? Son, sit down. Let me open this thing up for you. Let me tell you exactly what it is. Of course not. Why? Well, you can't reveal the secrets of such a profound thing to a 2-year-old or a 5-year-old or a 10-year-old. You're going to contaminate them, damage them. They're going to start being curious about the wrong thing at the wrong time in their life. Okay? So, one of the things about writing then is the following. Initially, if you had any profound experiences in life, and those experiences were very, very dangerous, consider the following. For those of you who think ideas are just ideas that mean nothing. There was a guy some years ago, his name was Henry David Thoreau. Henry David Thoreau had a teacher whose name was Emerson. Emerson had a wife whose name was Emily or Lady Emily. And Henry David Thoreau had fallen in love with Emerson's wife, but all that aside. One day, Henry David Thoreau sits and reads a book that comes from the Indian culture. It's called the Bhagavad Gita. It's about a relationship between a God and a human being, a teacher and a student. Now, the tragedy for Henry David Thoreau is that he happens to be at just the right time where he reads an idea, but the ideas don't go into his head. It goes into his soul. And that's the most dangerous place you could ever be in life. You're married. You've been married for about 5, 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 years. There is nothing wrong with your relationship. But as a human being, whether you know it or not, there is this desire inside you where you want to come to life. You watch a movie with your companion. You go to a fancy restaurant with your companion. You go on a vacation with your companion because you want to feel alive. So that poverty always lives inside us. Just by chance, you go to Pete's. Just by chance, your eyes meet another set of eyes. Just by chance, those eyes go inside you. Just by chance, you feel alive. You don't want to cheat, but you feel alive. And it feels good. In becoming alive, you feel that you've become a poet. You're inspired. And just in case that inspiration intoxicates you, you pursue that pleasure. Just in case that intoxication all of a sudden is met with fear, obligation, I am married, I have children, what if this, what if that, you walk away. Henry David Thoreau reads this book, sacred text from India, and says, oh my God, why do I want to live in the city? Why do I want to be amongst people? The city is a place of poison, contamination. People suck. He packs his stuff and moves to Walden, which is only about maybe a minute and a half away from civilization. He sits there in isolation and reads his books. I don't need to go to a bar and see people dance. The leaves do that for me when the wind blows. I don't need to go to a concert by Beyonce. The wind sings for me. I don't need a human companion. There are the animals. And you know why he went to Walden? Because the ideas in that tiny 100-page book went inside him. And you know the book that he wrote? On civil disobedience. And do you know why he wrote that book? Because America was demolishing the Native Americans. And he said, I work, I make money, the government takes some of that money, makes bullets, and kills Native Americans. I don't want to be part of that. Very much like what Muhammad Ali said to the Congress. The Asian folks haven't done anything to me. I have no business going there killing them. He writes this book called On Civil Disobedience. Some years later, there is this brown man in South Africa reading this book. What's his name? Mahatma Gandhi. Mahatma Gandhi is so impressed with his writing that it takes one incident in his life to make that book into his Bible. Henry David Thoreau is transformed by Bhagavad Gita. Mahatma Gandhi is transformed by Henry David Thoreau. In the South, an African American man sits in jail. He reads the works of Mahatma Gandhi and he is transformed. What's his name? Martin Luther King Jr. That's how powerful ideas can be if you happen to be at the right place. And since these ideas have the potency, the power to turn your life upside down, the Vedic philosopher argued that certain things about life need to remain hidden, need to remain a secret. Do not be like Socrates. Socrates has a big mouth. Socrates is a stupid man. Why? He goes around asking people difficult questions. Are you married? Yes. Why? Do you love your companion? Yes. Well, what is love? Who can really explain any of that stuff? No one. But once you realize you don't know the answer to the question that he's asked, you go home, you look at your wife, and you say, do I really love her? Well, what does that mean? What does that look like? And now there's a crack in your relationship. I had a student about 20 years ago. This was her last class she was supposed to take, and she would get her bachelor's degree. I was teaching a classical humanities class at a college in Sacramento, or Folsom area. And it was a short-term class, which means 8 weeks, the second week of the semester. So I was very, very different 20, 30 years ago. Right now I'm kind of boring, but way back then I wasn't as boring. And so the first couple class meetings, she raises her hand and they begin to wrestle. You know, she says, you're wrong. I say, no, you're fucked up. She says, no, you're wrong. I said, no, you're really fucked up. And by the third week of the semester, she comes to class, but she doesn't say anything. She just sits there. She doesn't even take notes. The fourth week, she walks into my office. It was a evening class. She comes to my office and she breaks down. She says, I don't know what I'm doing. I said, what do you mean you don't know what you're doing? You're married, you got 2 kids or 3 kids. You know, you don't need to come to class anymore. I'll give you an A. You just go take care of your life. She says, I can't. And marriage dissolves. Every day she goes to the boxing ring. Every day what she wants to do is to commit suicide, but she can't. The power of ideas. We keep things secret. Good teachers, that's their function. Good teachers always wait for students who are ready. Teachers don't just give ideas. They desire transformation, an overhaul of a life. Okay? Now, do you have any questions or comments before we continue? Anyone? All right. John. Henry David Thoreau. Henry David Thoreau. I think he lived in Massachusetts.
You said he's Gandhi.
Right. Didn't take ideas, it's just inspired by the ideas. Maybe even took them, sure. There is nothing wrong with appropriation. You know, just steal the good stuff. You know, when you steal like shitty things, then you just make everything shitty. I mean, I'd rather steal things from like Martin Luther than Snoop Dogg. That's a good way to steal things. All right, now. There are 4 different kinds of Vedas. Okay. The first one is called the Rig Veda. Now, Rig Veda has to do with you knowing the names of a lot of gods out there. And Hinduism, it gives you about 400 million gods. Now, that's one of the beautiful things about the Indian culture. You can have an open relationship. It's not a one-size-fits-all. If you're a Muslim, Allah, that's it. If you're a Jew, Yahweh. If you're a Christian, Jesus. Okay? Now, also the Hindus had come to realize that inside the human body, this flesh, every part of it lives a deity, a god, or a goddess. Just in case you are sick, there's a god that lives in that particular area. Know the names of those gods. Chant those names the right way. Worship them the right way, and healing will come your way. Okay? Now, to make this a bit more, I think, applicable, think of it this way. All of us in this class have a cell phone. When you go to your contact list, some of you have hundreds of people whose numbers you have saved. You don't like all of them, but you refuse to delete them. You know why? Because, sometimes you may come to need that particular person. You have a friend with whom you smoke. You have a friend with whom you drink. You have a friend with whom you chit-chat. You have a friend who acts as your therapist. You have a friend who acts as your sex buddy. So the Hindus had argued that all these different gods have a different function. Okay? The more you know the names, just in case your body or your life falls into disarray, you can call upon a god. Now, for us in the 21st century, it all sounds ridiculous, but not for those who lived 5,000 years ago. Okay. There is another Veda, it's called Soma Veda. Now that's where the goddess Vak comes in. There is a German philosopher by the name of Martin Heidegger. He was a very conflicted man. He's what we call a forest philosopher. He had also come to realize that society is really no good for people. If you want to live a reflective life, if you want to live a relatively meaningful life, very much like what Mahatma Gandhi had argued, that modernity does not allow people to live a meaningful life. You know, Stephanie, of course, isn't here, but she will tell you, from the moment you wake up to the time you go to bed, it's all about the business of life. You and I have no time for ourselves. And even though once in a while we sit, we have this 5-minute space where you sit and you reflect. Upon reflection, you realize it's far too painful to sit and think about how your day and how your time has gone. Okay? I understand. Now, Martin Heidegger had argued that what you and I do most often is we chit-chat. We gossip. And there is only one reason as to why we chit-chat and we gossip. Because we are not reflective, because we are not serious, because we don't really care. Not only do we not care about the world, not only do we not care about other people, most importantly, we don't even care about ourselves. He argued that there is only one way that you and I can have meaningful conversations. He categorized it as being unto death. Okay. Remember what we talked about last night about Gilgamesh and him holding Enkidu in his arms, and Enkidu just died. What happens to Gilgamesh? Death goes inside him. And when you experience death, you also experience your life the way you have lived it as slowly dying. All the things that used to give you meaning no longer does. For those of you in this class who have ever loved a pet or loved a parent or loved a person, and that person left, whether they died or they just broke you, okay? What happens to you in grief? Nothing matters. You enter this big hole, black hole, okay? That's where we get Joseph from, right? Now, being unto death for Martin Heidegger means you sit, you think, you reflect, you ask difficult questions. Now what you have is not gossip, it's not chit-chat. What you now have is what they call speech. It has weight, it has pain, it has history. Now, Soma Veda. There is a goddess by the name of Vak. Vak occupies the throat chakra, or here, the throat area. It waits and waits and waits and waits patiently. Why does it wait? Well, if you examine our conversations on a daily basis, where is it that our conversation comes from? It's from the stuff of life. Our biases, our prejudices, our angers, our difficulties, our pains. It's not existential. It's not spiritual. It's not even intellectual. Vak says, I will wait for someone, okay, who falls into grief, who falls into despair, who falls into darkness. In that darkness, I will descend from paradise and I will inspire them. I will occupy their minds, and I will occupy their hearts, and I will occupy their soul, and then I will force them to talk. And that speech has lots of divine or spiritual components in it. So just in case you go to a church, you go to a mosque or a synagogue, or you read a book and you realize something about you has been put to pause. In other words, the fleshy part of you, the worldly part of you has been put to pause, and this other part of you, the Enkidu part of you, the innocent part of you, has come to life. You are in the presence of this goddess named Vak. Vak is speaking to you. Now, the sages of the Vedic tradition are interesting in the sense that you sit with them, they wait and wait and wait and wait until this goddess descends into them. And then they open their mouth. And when they speak, we are inspired. Now, the problem with spiritual inspiration is the following. Spirit does not care for matter. Spirit doesn't care for the flesh. And if 90% of my life is filled with physical stuff, spiritual inspiration makes me feel guilty for the life that I have created. So inspiration and guilt are siblings. Guilt and shame are cousins. Shame and anger are siblings. So that's why the Vedic tradition is one of secrecy. It's only meant for those who have the capacity to hear, to be filled with pain, to have regrets and remorse, and yet not break. Any questions? Comments? What time is it? 7:37? Good. Another few minutes and we'll go. Vanay.
Does anybody by any chance thinks
Do you know her name? See how friendship is created? Poverty, need. And someone has the privilege to give you something. Her name is Emilia. Do you have her number? You may have a need for a charger, maybe tomorrow, maybe tonight. Do you have a car? She has a car. She can drive to your house and give you it. That's how friendships are built. What? Not the car, just the charger. Don't be so greedy. Next is this thing called Yajur Veda. How do I best express what this particular tradition is? Yajur. Okay. Imagine for a moment that I know all the names of the gods in the Rig Vedic tradition. Imagine for a moment that once in a while I've been visited by the goddess Vak, and she really, really inspired me to the point that I was completely vaked up. You get that? That was funny. Come on, man. All right. Now, but because inspirations don't really have much of a shelf life, it disappears. And I go to a sage and I say, I want to be visited by inspiration again. So let me create a story. My parents don't drink. My grandparents never drank. I came to America. We had some friends. We were one day sitting, watching soccer, America playing, in Iran playing America, which of course Iran won 2-1. For those of you who may not know, we are winners. And so as we are celebrating our win over the blue-eyed devil, my friend passes me a glass. So what is this? It's time to celebrate. What is it? It's vodka. Not knowing what it is, looking like water, put it down. So wow, Freud was right. You drink and you open up. You know? Not only do you open up, but you also forget that you are an immigrant, that your life sucks, that you're a stranger in a strange land. So every time life offers me a troubling event, I drink. And then I drink some more. And then I drink some more. And then, of course, I get married while being drunk, going through one of those drive-through marriage certificate places in Reno. And while drunk, I have sex. And then I have a child. And I abuse the hell out of this kid. And they leave me, all of them. All 27 of them. Now I am 55. And I'm sitting home and I'm watching this movie. And the movie inspires me, kind of like Vok. It's about a man very much like me. Used to be a drunk, but he sobered up. And it inspires me so much where I say, I want to sober up. I hate the way my life has unfolded. So I begin to read books. How do you overcome alcoholism? And I imagine that if I was to read a book or 2 or 3, I would have the proper tools. So I read them and I try to apply what I have read. It doesn't work. I go to church and I listen to this beautiful sermon. Inspires me. But the moment I walk out, everything's forgotten. I go back to drinking. Then I go to the AA center, coming to realize very much like Al Pacino, like Brad Pitt, like Robin Williams, that if you have an addiction, and that addiction happens to be negative, impacts your life in all the awful ways, you can't overcome this addiction by yourself. It's impossible. You need a community, you need a cult, you need a group. Go to the AA center. So I go there. And for the first time, after a lot of tries and fails, I stand up and I say, my name is Amir Sabzavari. I'm an alcoholic. Is there shame in me? Absolutely. Is there fear in me? Yes. Do I have guilt? Yeah. Am I angry? Yes. But my anger and my shame and my guilt and my remorse is housed within a community of 20 people who have gone through the same stuff. And the person who's guiding the center used to be an alcoholic, but he's now Jesus Christ. Go back to what St. Augustine used to say. If you want to know who a saint is someone who used to be a sinner, an addict, but overcame his or her addiction. There is a reason why Jesus is no good as a teacher. He had no addiction to overcome. No addiction to loving parents, no addiction to loving a wife, no addiction to making money, no addiction to realize how shitty life is, but yet you have to live it. He walked away from the whole thing. When he comes back, he doesn't understand the life of an addict like me. He doesn't know how difficult it is to walk away from a wife, from parents who are old and needy. He doesn't understand rent. He doesn't understand healthcare. He just says, what benefit is there for man to gain the whole world and lose his soul? Should I really walk away from everyone for the sake of my own soul and watching my kids perish? My wife become homeless? My parents go into a nursing home for what? For a fucking soul? Are you serious? I'd rather follow a Moses. Yajurveda is about sacrifice. If you want to change, you need to make sacrifices. What do you sacrifice? Habits, routines, addictions, assumptions, biases, false ego, i.e. pride. But no one can do this willingly. You can't just wake up and say, today I'm going to quit smoking. Are you fucking kidding me? You've been smoking for the past like 20 years. If you can do cold turkey, there is magic inside you. Most often people can't. If you are in a relationship and you see your companion having certain qualities, attitudes, habits that are just poison for the relationship, my recommendation, save your time, save your youth, save your energy, save your love for someone who is worthy. Walk away. Why? Addictions are difficult to overcome. There are relapses. You always go back to the old life because the new life is a life you don't yet know. I don't know what it's like not to drink. I don't know what it's like to hang out with people who are sober. All I know is that when I get drunk, I feel good. When I get drunk, I don't think. When I get drunk, my past no longer exists. I am not haunted by the emotions anymore. If I am sober, on the other hand, I remember. And in remembering, there is pain. And all you have to do to understand how difficult sacrifice or change is, just look at history. Gilgamesh wrote his wisdom on the wall, on tablets. Why? Because people have ears, but they don't hear. And even if they do, it's difficult to apply what you hear. So, 3 lessons then from the Vedic tradition. First, it's an underground secret society because they know the dangerousness of knowledge, i.e. wisdom. Okay. If you want change, transformation, you need lots of sacrifices. You need to have the capacity to sacrifice. The way you make sacrifices is being around someone who has the power to inspire you. And that inspiration has to be in a positive way. You can't go to the Little Wayne's concert and be inspired. You can also go to the South and listen to a pastor give a beautiful sermon. You're inspired in both scenarios. But one moves your body, the other moves your spirit. And then you need to have lots of information in your head, i.e. Rig Veda. And eventually, if you're able to make the proper sacrifices, you will be able to bring the information together. Turn it into knowledge. Apply the knowledge, turn it into understanding. Live the understanding, now you have wisdom. There is this fourth Vedic tradition. It's called Atharva Veda, but it's mostly about Harry Potter stuff. It's about exorcisms. It's about body postures. It's about meditation. It's about breathing. It's about things that don't really apply to us. So I'll skip that. Now, do you have any questions before we leave at 8:30? So whenever it's 8:30, just let me know and we'll leave. It's 8? Okay, so we have 2 hours. Anyone else? Any questions, comments before I continue? Yes, Joseph.
Right now, thank
you. Yeah. Elliot, you sure? It's been a long time since I've heard a 16-year-old ask a question. It's like many. It's encouraging. Thank you. Okay. Do you know where the bathroom is? You go straight. Yeah, then left.
I have a question. You was talking about you're the father of Moses. In that period of time, didn't they talk about a Messiah coming that was supposed to be Jesus Christ? I don't know if I'm right or wrong, but I'm just asking a question.
Well, that particular idea comes from the Gospel of Matthew. The Gospel of Matthew is mostly written for a Jewish audience, and Matthew does his best to make Jesus into the Messiah that the Old Testament promised. Matthew does a lot of fun, and we don't really know who actually wrote that particular book. We just go by Matthew. But when you look at the genealogy, which is the family tree, it's very different than the one you'll find in the Gospel of Luke. So Matthew does all sorts of strange things. Yeah.
I noticed they're all similar too, like Matthew, Luke,
Yeah, they are.
John, they're all.
Well, John doesn't really have a genealogy, but Matthew's genealogy is like, I don't know, 2 pages. Luke's is about 100 pages. Matthew's genealogy takes Jesus back to Abraham, who is the father of the Jews, but Luke's genealogy takes Jesus all the way back to Adam, who is the father of humanity. So Matthew tries to sell us a Jewish Jesus, whereas Luke tries to sell us a universal Jesus who is there for everybody. You know, so there's a good amount of politics involved in the creation of the Gospels. But we'll talk about other Gospels such as the Gospel of Mary, the Gospel of Truth, the Gospel of Nicodemus. But that time is not yet. Now,
Well, does they say that Yahweh or Jehovah, whoever God is supposed to, do they say that he's the father of Jesus Christ? And back in your culture, does it go back to
well, if you're talking about the Middle Eastern culture, primarily the Islamic tradition, JC is just a prophet. He's just a guy who's really, really wise.
Oh, okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah, yeah. It's really only in the Gospel of John, which was the last Gospel that was added. It's only the Gospel of John where Jesus considers himself to be God, or at least other people consider him to be God. In all the other Gospels, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, he's just a guy, a rabbi, a teacher, you know.
It's going on healing people and all this stuff.
Yeah. Anyone else? E? Nothing? You sure? Okay. So, the Hindus came to understand certain things about human life, that human beings live on 3 different stages or occupy 3 different worlds. The most basic, the most simple, the most immediate world in which all of us in this class live is called kama. It is symbolic of the genitalia. It is pleasure driven. It needs to be gratified immediately. It functions through the five senses, the eyes, the nose, the ears, the touch, and the taste. And you could symbolize it further by just putting next to kama, drinking, smoking, and porning. It's quite fleshy and meaty. The problem with wrong pen. The problem with the world of kama is the following. This is me. This is Lucy. My eyes look. My eyes attract. My eyes like. I desire. I make this journey. I want Lucy. I need Lucy. I have Lucy. In having Lucy, I have sex with Lucy. Lucy, at a certain point, I am satisfied. In other words, this desire that's here now is satisfied. I am hungry, now I am full. When I am satisfied or full, I no longer think about Lucy. Once I stop thinking about Lucy, Lucy no longer has any meaning. Now I am bored. The shelf life of this is maybe 2 weeks. Just in case you fall in love with Lucy, the foundation of this relationship is sex. And sex does not have the power to get rid of fundamental differences and disagreements in relationships. You will do it. You will try to use sex to iron out the wrinkles in the relationship, but eventually you'll get caught. But the shelf life is about 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks. This is what we call kama. It's all about pleasure, physical. Just in case your life is filled with pain and you smoke weed and you don't do it because you say it's organic, it's like herbal tea. No, don't be stupid. Okay? You smoke because it removes responsibility off of your shoulders. That's what it does. It numbs you, relaxes you. Why does it relax you? Because life is stressful. And we don't know what to do with the stress. My nephew Arman is in dental school. And what he tells me all the time is there are all these people who are studying like 20 hours a day. And the only way they can do it is by doing drugs. It's not because they're in love with the drugs. That's how they cope with the stress of education. Okay? So, for those of you who go home tonight, just figure out the kind of pleasure that lives inside kama, that brings you relaxation, that calms you down. What you need to know, at a certain point, whatever it is that you desire will be satisfied. And just in case you remain dissatisfied, it's because you don't have the resources to satisfy it, so you jump into another desire. That's how it works. The next kind of world that we occupy is the world of artha. Can you read this? Anyways, doesn't really matter. Artha. Artha is symbolic of the abdomen area. It's a place for power. Okay. Now, let me give an example. Some of you in this class are no longer 18 or 19 or 20 or 30 or 40. You're old and you're very close to death. Why are you at Laney? A crummy school. A 2-year school. I'll tell you why. Hopefully you had parents who said to you, stay in school. Don't fuck up. But you said, Mom, Dad, what the hell do you guys know? Right? I am young. I want to go out there and explore. The world is my stage, as Shakespeare would say. Your parents tried to reason with you until they just became overwhelmed with frustration. They eventually turned their back and they said, fuck you, whatever. You went out there, had lots of sex, lots of drinking, lots of smoking, lots of fun. But then you got caught by your own psychology. Something about you, as it happens to all of us organically, something about you just wakes up and says, the hell are you doing? Maybe I should do something different with my life now. And what that indicates to you is the following. The way you see pleasure now, the way you define pleasure now, has now forever changed. You don't find pleasure in smoking, but you find pleasure in going to school, in getting a job that's not at Home Depot, in making money that's not just $20 an hour, moving out of Oakland, buying yourself a nice big house. Power. Does smoking give you power? Absolutely. How long does it last? 10 minutes. But here's the difference. In the world of karma, your pursuit of pleasure and you having the pleasure is about 10 minutes. In other words, you're tired, you want to go home, you want to smoke, you want to porn, you want to have sex, you want to drink, whatever. You can get in 10 minutes. It means you don't have to be that patient. You don't have to sacrifice that much. If, on the other hand, your definition of pleasure has changed, moved upwards to the world of artha, and you want to put yourself back to school, well, what are you going to school for? You want to get a bachelor's or a master's degree. How long does this take? 2 to 4 years. Here, you need to make lots of sacrifices. And most of you in this class have. You have overcome your drinking habits, smoking habits, sexing habits. Okay? The most important thing now, you have the patience and the stamina to sit in this class and other classes like this for the next 4 fucking years. As you mature, your patience grows. Your capacity grows. You're willing to sacrifice. Why? Because this particular pleasure is worth the sacrifice. But here is the problem with the world of artha. You will go to school. It will take you 4 to 6 years. You will get your degree. You will be satisfied. And very much like the sex you had down here, where you sat, you looked, and you said, this was stupid. You look at your degree and all the money you're making with it, and the job and the fame and all of this, and you say, really? I did all of that for this? But by the time you realize that this bores you, it no longer has any meaning for you. You've gotten married, you've had a few kids, you've bought a house. At the age of 40, now you sit and say, it wasn't worth it. But it took you 20 years to get there. This is a good life. You will realize how shitty you are as a human being after 20 minutes here. Here, it's after 20 years. Now, the world of Artha, for the most part, is your own personal world. It's your life. It's your degree. It's your money. It's your desire to buy a house and a car. But then something about us changes. We walk into the world of Dharma. Here you say, I have a house, I have a car, I have a checking and a savings account, but I want to share my life with another human being. Now, for the first time, you become a social animal. You have parents. You had left them to make your own life. But then you realize they're a little older now. They're a little sicker now. That maybe you should move back home. At least live near them. Take care of them. Now, this is something you can do at the stage of karma. And it's not something you can do at the stage of when you're going to school. Because it's about you and your life. And you making your life work. At the age of Dharma, now you become more forgiving, more compassionate, more for other people. But here's the problem with Dharma. The problem with Dharma is no different than this or this. If school takes you about 4, 5, 6 years, and then you say to yourself, as I've said many times to myself, I went through all that schooling for this. And now I hate coming to class, and I hate talking about these ideas. But it took 30 years to get there. Okay? At the world of Dharma, what you do is, now that you have the power, you pick and choose the sort of relationships you want. You pick a companion. You get married to a companion. Now you have an emotional relationship. Now you make sacrifices for your companion, for your spouse. Whatever money you make, you give it for your kids. Okay? Then at the age of 60, you look around, you realize you're sick, your kids have left, and then you say, did I really have to sacrifice my entire life for my family? Sometimes when I speak to my mom in moments of honesty, I suppose, she says, got married at the age of 15, had you guys 16 and 17 and 20. What sort of shitty life is that? I should have become a doctor or something. And what the Hindus discovered is the following. It matters very little what path in life we take. At the end of every path, there is satisfaction. And with every satisfaction, there is boredom. And with every boredom, there is sadness and despair and regret. What does that make life? It's a miserable thing. You know why? Because human beings desperately are looking for happiness. I want to be happy, not just for a minute, for days, if not weeks or months or years. The problem is I can never be. And the more you think and reflect on this GPS that the Hindus give us, you have to sit back and say, okay, where in life can I go to find this elusive thing called happiness? It is true that this has a shelf life of 10 minutes, and this has a shelf life of 20 years or 5 years, and this 20 years, but eventually all roads end in what? Nothing. But there was something that came forth all of a sudden in the Hindu tradition that said there is a way to save yourself. Now remember, at this stage, there is no soul. It's kind of like the Jewish tradition. Initially, there is no soul for the Jewish tradition. There is no Yahweh who's going to wait for you in the Garden of Eden or hell or wherever to judge you. Once you die, you go into this place called Sheol, and that's it. When the Jews came in contact with the Persian tradition, Zoroastrianism, in that tradition they realized, oh, the Zoroastrians, they believe in a God. They believe in a soul. They believe in an afterlife. They believe in a God that judges you and sends you either to paradise or eternal damnation. They borrowed that. And then after that, for the first time in the Jewish tradition, now you have heaven and hell and God's judgment upon us. Everything is plagiarized. How do we escape? Once I die, I will no longer have any desires. Once I die, I will no longer feel. Once I die, my journey comes to an end. In death, I will be free. In death, I will no longer suffer boredom or frustration or anxiety. Death is my salvation, not life. Consider this philosophy now. From the moment you are born, I'm from Iran. So, چون دایره ماز پوست پوشان sorry, it's a wrong poem. زمن بشنوی پیر آموزگار مکن تکی بر گردش روزگار که این منزل درد و جای غم است در این دامگه شادمانی کم است. This is a place of sorrow. It's a place of despair. It's a place of frustration, anxiety, confusion, and dread. It's a place of loneliness. You're not going to find happiness down here. در این دامگه شادمانی کم است. Happiness is rare. And so what happens as you live life in these cultures that don't promise happiness is that you walk into life, but you're not going to expect much from it. This reality is always imposing itself upon you. You don't get married for happiness. You don't have children for happiness. You don't have a job for happiness. You don't make money for happiness. It doesn't exist. Yeah.
Yes, it was a choice.
I'm sorry?
You're saying that it doesn't exist, but I thought happiness is a choice.
Okay, there is a guy, he's a poet, he's a satirist, he's Greek. His name is Aesop. He has this beautiful story that I think speaks to happiness as a choice. He wouldn't put it in that particular language, but let me just quickly tell you what the story is. There is this fox, and foxes are known to be very, very clever and very cunning. Okay? This particular fox loves grapes and will do anything to get the grapes. So as the fox is walking, he sees some grapes. He goes to them, but there is a fence. He puts his hand through the fence to get some grapes. But they're just a little far away. He tries and tries and tries, but not successful. He tries some more. For days, weeks, months, years, he tries. And despite all of his cunningness, he tries and he fails. Then he walks away. He says, you know what? The grapes, they're probably sour. They don't taste good. I know why I couldn't reach the grapes. God didn't want me to have those grapes. Had I had them, I'd probably get a tummy ache, maybe get diarrhea. When you say happiness is a choice, what exactly are you saying? That yes, I went out with this man, I loved him, he shat all over me, but you know what? I'm going to think about this differently. No. You were stupid for choosing that guy. You were far too young. And the truth is, this is life. You get together with people, you develop emotions, and they shit on you. That's just the way things are. Now, the only way you can make yourself happy is by changing the reality. And what's the reality? God wants me to learn something from this. Yeah, that you're stupid. So is happiness a choice? I think it's a bumper sticker that's been in this particular culture for about a few decades. And remember, our ideas of happiness, again, it's very, very, very new. It's only with the age of enlightenment, the age of reason around the 18th century, that human beings are rational, that this is the age of science, that people can be autonomous, all those things. And add to it the Declaration of Independence, life, and the pursuit of happiness. You can't go anywhere else on this planet where they give you those promises. And it wasn't really happiness, it was property, but that's a different story. Is it time yet? Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, of course. Yeah. So listen, it's good to see all of you. Have a nice weekend. Take care of yourself. When we come back, we'll find a way out of this mess. Okay.
You got your bag in there.